The last 10 years changed gaming forever. From emotional single-player epics to worlds that redefined freedom, this decade delivered masterpieces that shaped an entire generation. From 2016 to 2025, these are the games that didn't just raise the bar, they became the bar.
We begin in 2016, where one era ended and another began. We kick off our decade in 2016 with the ultimate PlayStation swan song. Uncharted 4 wasn't just a tech demo for the PS4, it was a masterclass in storytelling that deconstructed the very hero we had spent 3 games cheering for. Naughty Dog took Nathan Drake, a character defined by explosions and treasure, and forced him to confront the reality of aging and marriage. The addition of Sam Drake added a brilliant layer of tension, but it was the quieter moments that stole the show, playing Crash Bandicoot on the couch or driving through the mud in Madagascar. Visually, it was a generational leap, introducing semi-open areas and the grappling hook that made combat feel fluid and vertical. It remains the gold standard for how to end a franchise with dignity, delivering an emotional payoff that action games rarely achieve.
2016 also gave us the game that was 10 years in the making. Final Fantasy XV is a flawed masterpiece, but its heart is undeniable. It ditched the traditional turn-based formula for real-time action, letting you warp strike across the battlefield and summon massive deities that filled the entire screen. But the real magic wasn't the combat, it was the Choco Bros. The road trip dynamic between Noctis, Prompto, Ignis, and Gladiolus created a bond that felt genuinely human. You spent hours driving the Regalia, listening to classic FF soundtracks and camping under the stars. By the time you reached the darker, more linear second half of the game, that bond made the tragic conclusion hit like a truck. It showed us that sometimes the journey really is more important than the destination.
2017, open worlds stopped being maps and started becoming ecosystems. Guerrilla Games stepped out of the shadow of Killzone and dropped a nuclear bomb of creativity. Horizon Zero Dawn presented a post-apocalyptic world that was lush, green, and teeming with robotic wildlife. The concept of fighting a mechanical T-Rex with a bow and arrow sounds ridiculous on paper, but the execution was flawless. The combat required actual strategy. You had to scan machines, strip their armor components, and use their own weapons against them. Beyond the gameplay, the mystery of the old ones was captivating. Unraveling the story of Elizabeth Sobek and how the world fell apart provided a sci-fi narrative that was surprisingly deep and emotional. It established Aloy as an instant icon and proved that new IPs could still dominate the charts. Assassin's Creed Origins. After the franchise hit a wall with Syndicate, Ubisoft took a gap year and reinvented the wheel with Origins. This wasn't just another stealth game, it was a massive action RPG set in the most realized version of ancient Egypt ever created. You could slide down the Great Pyramids, fight in gladiator arenas, and explore the Nile, all seamlessly. The shift to a hitbox-based combat system inspired by Dark Souls made fighting feel dangerous and weighty for the first time. But the game's soul is Bayek of Siwa, driven by the heartbreak of losing his son. His performance is raw and powerful, anchoring the massive open world in a personal story of revenge and the birth of the Assassin Brotherhood. It saved the series and set the blueprint for the next 5 years of Ubisoft games.
2018 wasn't a year, it was a statement. 2018 was a battle of titans, starting with Red Dead Redemption 2. This isn't just a game, it's a simulation of a dying era. Rockstar's obsession with detail borders on insanity, from the way Arthur's facial hair grows in real time to the shrinking horse dynamic in the cold. But what truly makes this a game of the decade is the writing. It's a slow burn tragedy about loyalty, faith, and redemption. The camp system made you feel responsible for your gang, making the eventual collapse of the Vanderlinde gang heartbreaking. It demands patience from the player, forcing you to slow down, brew coffee, and clean your guns. It's a somber, beautiful, and heavy experience that raised the bar for narrative depth in video games forever.
On the other side of 2018, we saw the greatest comeback in gaming history. Santa Monica Studio took Kratos, a character known only for screaming and killing, and turned him into a stoic, grieving father.
The genius one-shot camera technique meant the game never cut away, keeping you locked in Kratos' perspective from the first frame to the credits. The combat changed from a zoomed-out hack and slash to an over-the-shoulder visceral brawl. The Leviathan axe is arguably the best-feeling weapon ever coded. The recall mechanic never gets old. But at its core, this was a story about generational trauma and a father trying to be better for his son. It was a perfect blend of cinematic storytelling and top-tier gameplay that defined the PS4 generation.
2019 proved that polish matters, but precision matters more. 2019 brought us Days Gone, a game that launched rough but aged like fine wine. At first glance, it looks like a generic zombie shooter, but it offers systems that no other game has matched. The Horde technology is terrifying. Seeing 300 freakers pour out of a cave like a liquid flood induces pure panic. You have to use traps, explosives, and the environment just to survive. The motorcycle isn't just a vehicle, it's your lifeline. You have to fuel it, repair it, and upgrade it, which grounds the gameplay in survival. Deacon St. John's journey through a broken Oregon is gritty and surprisingly heartfelt. If you play it today on modern hardware, it stands as one of the most immersive and adrenaline-pumping open worlds of the last decade. While other games focused on loot and leveling up, Sekiro focused on one thing: mastery. From Software stripped away the RPG elements to create the tightest, most satisfying sword combat system in existence. The posture system turned every fight into a high-stakes rhythm game of attacking and deflecting. There is no cheesing bosses here. You have to learn the dance. The addition of the grappling hook and stealth mechanics allowed you to feel like a true shinobi, stalking enemies from the rooftops before dropping into a duel. The final boss fight against Ishin, the Sword Saint, is legendary for its difficulty, but finally beating him provides a rush of dopamine that few other games can offer. It is a masterpiece of mechanical design. In a year defined by chaos, games delivered beauty and brutality. In 2020, Sucker Punch delivered a love letter to samurai cinema. Ghost of Tsushima is often cited as the most beautiful game ever made, not because of photorealism, but because of art direction. The guiding wind mechanic, which replaced ugly mini-maps with gusts of wind and floating pedals, was a stroke of genius that kept you immersed in the world. Combat was a deadly dance of changing stances to break enemy defenses, making you feel like a master swordsman. The story of Jin Sakai having to abandon his samurai honor to become the ghost and save his people was a compelling moral struggle. Whether you were composing haikus by a lake or engaging in a cinematic standoff, the game was pure, polished comfort food for open-world fans.
Then came the most divisive and discussed game of the generation. The Last of Us Part 2 took a sledgehammer to player expectations. Naughty Dog created a revenge story that forces you to walk in the shoes of the villain, challenging your sense of morality and empathy. Technical-wise, it is flawless. The enemy AI calls out names, flanks you, and reacts with terrifying realism. The animation work is so detailed you can see the fear in characters' eyes. It is an emotionally exhausting experience, grim, violent, and heavy, but that was the point. It pushed the boundaries of what video game storytelling can do, proving that games don't always have to be fun to be incredible pieces of art.
In 2021, horror returned and horizons expanded. In 2021, Resident Evil went full gothic horror park. Village was a roller coaster that paid homage to RE4, giving us an inventory case to organize and a merchant to buy upgrades from. The game is structured like a theme park. You have the vampire castle with the internet-famous Lady Dimitrescu, the psychological horror of House Beneviento, which is nightmare fuel, and the action-heavy factory. Ethan Winters returned as the faceless dad who just won't die, and the game embraced a campy, fun tone that the series needed. It managed to balance genuine scares with explosive action, culminating in a twist ending that wrapped up the Winters family saga perfectly. It was a wild, weird, and incredibly fun ride. On the lighter side, Forza Horizon 5 proved that racing games could be massive mainstream hits.
Playground Games took us to Mexico, creating the most diverse map in the series' history. One minute you are driving through a dust storm near an active volcano, and the next you are drifting through a dense jungle or a colonial city. The graphics were a true next-gen showcase, with lighting and weather effects that looked photorealistic. But the best part was the accessibility. It's a game that welcomes everyone, whether you want to tune your suspension for hours or just drive a Hot Wheels car off a cliff, the game rewards you. It is the ultimate good vibes game of the decade. Then came the year 2022 that changed everything. 2022 was the year of Elden Ring. It's hard to overstate the impact this game had. From Software took the Dark Souls formula and applied it to a massive open world, but they refused to use the standard Ubisoft checklist. There were no markers telling you where to go. You had to look at the horizon, see a weird castle, and just ride there. This sense of discovery was magical. You could fall into a hole and discover an entire underground city. The sheer variety of builds, from magic users to heavy sword swingers, meant every player had a unique story to tell. It was difficult, mysterious, and vast, proving that players don't need their hands held to enjoy a blockbuster experience. God of War Ragnarok. Following up a masterpiece is hard, but God of War Ragnarok stuck the landing. It took the intimate story of the 2018 game and expanded it into a grand war across all 9 realms. The combat got faster and more vertical, and the addition of the Draupnir spear gave Kratos a whole new tactical layer. But the writing remained the star. It deconstructed the Norse gods, showing Odin not as a warrior, but as a manipulative, toxic mob boss. The evolution of Kratos from a protector to a leader, and Atreus searching for his own identity, led to an emotional finale that left grown men in tears. It was a dense, complete package that justified every second of its runtime. Horizon Forbidden West had the bad luck of releasing right next to Elden Ring, but do not sleep on it. It is arguably the best-looking game on the PlayStation 5. The journey to the Forbidden West introduced deeper lore, better side quests, and deadlier machines like the massive Tremor Tusk. The addition of the Shield Wing glider and the diving mask opened up the sky and the ocean, fixing the traversal issues of the first game. The combat became even more tactical, giving you more traps and weapon types to dismantle machines piece by piece. As a sci-fi action RPG, it is top tier, blending a unique world with a story about legacy and the burden of saving the world alone.
"2023 belonged to storytellers who refused to play it safe. In 2023, Baldur's Gate 3 didn't just raise the bar, it broke the bar entirely. Larian Studios brought Dungeons & Dragons to digital life with a level of reactivity we've never seen. You can talk your way out of boss fights, kill key characters, or accidentally turn yourself into a wheel of cheese, and the game accounts for it. The writing and motion capture brought the companions like Astarion and Karlach to life, making them feel like real people with complex flaws. It turned a niche genre, CRPGs, into a global phenomenon by trusting the player's intelligence. With hundreds of hours of content and thousands of ending variations, it is a game that defines what role-playing actually means. Alan Wake 2, after 13 years of waiting, Remedy Entertainment delivered a sequel that was less of a game and more of a multimedia art piece. Alan Wake 2 leaned full tilt into survival horror, taking heavy inspiration from True Detective and Twin Peaks. The dual protagonist structure, switching between Saga Anderson's detective work and Alan's nightmare in the dark place, kept the pacing fresh. The way it blended live-action video with gameplay was seamless and unsettling. And we have to mention the Herald of Darkness level, a literal rock opera musical in the middle of a horror game. It was bold, weird, and uncompromised creativity, proving that big-budget games can still take massive artistic risks. In 2024, action was unleashed. Black Myth Wukong. 2024 saw the arrival of the Destined One. Black Myth Wukong stormed onto the scene as the most successful single-player game to come out of China. Built on Unreal Engine 5, it is a visual spectacle, boasting some of the most detailed creature designs ever rendered. The game is essentially a high-octane boss rush, pitting you against enemies ripped straight from Chinese mythology. The combat is fast and fluid, relying on perfect dodges and staff stances rather than blocking. While the level design was a bit linear, the sheer variety of bosses and the smooth controls made it an instant classic for action fans. It proved that the market for challenging, linear, single-player adventures is bigger than ever. Helldivers 2. Nobody expected Helldivers 2 to take over the world, but it became the multiplayer phenomenon of 2024. It captured the satire of Starship Troopers perfectly, dropping players into a chaotic galactic war to spread managed democracy. The shift to third person made the action feel massive, with airstrikes and orbital lasers exploding all around you. But the secret sauce was the community. We all fought on a single galactic map, winning and losing planets together, guided by the mysterious Game Master Joel. The friendly fire mishaps and unscripted cinematic moments created endless viral clips. It was a reminder that multiplayer games are best when they focus on fun and chaos, rather than just grinding for skins.
And now, we stand at the future. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, looking at the recent heavy hitters of 2025, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was the surprise JRPG hit of the year. It brought a stunning Belle Epoque French art style that looked unlike anything else on the market. The premise was haunting. A paintress wakes up once a year to paint a number, and everyone of that age turns to smoke and dies. The gameplay innovated on turn-based combat by adding real-time dodge and parry mechanics, keeping you engaged every second of the fight. It felt like a modern evolution of games like Lost Odyssey or Final Fantasy X, proving that turn-based strategy can look and feel next-gen with the right art direction and mechanics. Hollow Knight's Silksong. The meme finally died, and the legend was born. Hollow Knight's Silksong actually came out, and it justified the agonizing wait. Moving from the knight to hornet changed everything. Her movement is acrobatic, faster, and more lethal. The Kingdom of Farloom offered a more vertical world to explore, filled with the stunning hand-drawn art Team Cherry is famous for. The new tool crafting system added a layer of strategy that let players customize their playstyle on the fly. It managed to retain the mystery and difficulty of the original while feeling like a grander, more confident adventure. It is the absolute peak of the Metroidvania genre. Ghost of Yotei. Sucker Punch returned to Japan, but they didn't just give us Ghost of Tsushima 2. Ghost of Yotei jumped 300 years into the future to 1603, introducing a new protagonist, Atsu. Set in the untamed wilderness around Mount Yotei, the game embraced a Ronin vibe. The introduction of early firearms changed the flow of combat, and the dual-wielding mechanics felt incredibly satisfying. The snow deformation and weather systems set a new benchmark for open-world visuals. By moving away from Jin Sakai, the developers proved that the ghost is an idea, not just a person, creating a standalone story that felt fresh while keeping the satisfying swordplay we loved. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We end our list with the ultimate immersion machine. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 took everything the first game did, the realism, the history, the difficulty, and polished it to perfection. Henry of Skalitz returned, but the scope of the game exploded. The city of Kuttenberg was a technical marvel, a dense, living medieval city where every NPC had a routine. The addition of crossbows and early gunpowder weapons added new layers to the combat, which remained heavy and dangerous. It didn't hold your hand. You still had to eat, sleep, and bathe to succeed. It stands as the definitive medieval RPG of the last 10 years. From 2016 to 2025, these games defined an era. They pushed technology, challenged storytelling, and proved that games are more than entertainment, they're art. This was a decade of legends.
Which game defined your decade? Let me know in the comments.